Hey there, soap lovers! Welcome back to the Rooted Coop channel. Today we have something extra special for you. We're going to take you through the process of making our signature oatmeal and honey countertop hot process soap. So grab a seat, get comfy, and let's make soap together. Before beginning, I have combined our oils and heated those. We also have our hot lye water that we will be adding. We're going to blend those to trace. Once those come to trace, we will cover with a plastic shower cap to help hold in any of the heat and steam to allow this process to happen. It normally takes about 5 to 10 minutes between each set, and we cover to allow the volcanoes to happen and all of the magic to take its place. Then it will be stirred and blended. We go through 3 phases: the mashed potato phase, the applesauce phase, and then finally the Vaseline phase. However, these phases can go back and forth. You can have mashed potato phase, applesauce, back to mashed potatoes. They go through the different phases though. I have edited out a lot of this just because it's such a long video. The process usually takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours from start to finish. However, if this is something that you want to see a full unedited video, please let me know, and I would be more than happy to make one that shows the whole process and in more depth. Since we've already begun, we'll go over our ingredients and the tools that we're using today. This is an advanced method for this technique, so it's definitely not one for beginners. In our dish, we had our coconut oil and olive oil blended together and heated and ready to go. I've pulled aside the castor oil, the oatmeal, and the honey and blended those together to be added later on in this mixture once we've gone through the process. We also have our fragrance oil that will be added later, as well as the mica powder for coloring. I dispersed the mica in water to allow for easier blending. Of course, a mixing bowl. A scale was definitely used because when making soap you must have exact measurements. A heat-resistant spoon and a soap mold. Safety goggles and gloves are a must, so make sure that you have those on before even getting started. Again, this batch takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours. With all of the measuring the ingredients beforehand, you want to have everything ready to go because once you start, you will not have time to gather your additional ingredients or supplies. So let's dive into this soap making process. Because I've already measured our oils on the scale, and again, the importance of this scale is you must weigh your ingredients to have a precise ratio of the coconut oil and olive oil. You want to have the perfect amount of fragrance and other ingredients. To heat up my oils, I simply used a microwave for this batch. But you could also heat these in a stock pot on the cooktop, or you could even use a double boiler. The tools that you have will be what you have available. Right now I'm stirring down the soap batter. You can see the volcanoes that form, and then it needs to be stirred down and blended, making sure to clean off all of the bits from the stick blender to try to get as much back into the pot as possible. You want to keep all of this in the container because what ends up on the sides will often set up and it's unusable for this soap loaf. Lots and lots of stirring. This method requires constant supervision and a lot of waiting. I'm impatient and I wanted to get this done as quickly as possible, but this method always works great for me. See, it's starting to look more like applesauce now. You can see the heat bubbling up off of it. To make our soap look extra nice, we're going to be adding some mica powder later. It will give our soap a beautiful touch to make it even more irresistible. Because even if this method produces a more rustic bar, it can still have a pop of color. And another volcano is forming. Time to stir it down. The temperature looks to be about 235, so this is a very hot batch of soap, and that's why it's extremely important to use caution and all of your safety gear while making this batch to keep yourself protected. The shower cap works great, but you could also use clear plastic wrap. I like to be able to see what's going on, so that's why I prefer the clear coverings. That way I know whenever the soap is starting to volcano, starting to rise. You want to make sure that your dish or your container is also deep enough so whenever this does puff up, you have plenty of room to stir it back down so you don't have the volcano coming out onto your countertop or your workstation. Blending it up again. And sometimes with this I don't have the blender on. I'm using it to stir as well. I'll blend for a bit, stir for a bit, blend for a bit, stir for a bit, just to give the stick blender a break in between, because you can definitely overuse your blender and you risk tearing your blender up. Getting all of the bits and bobs back into the container. Again, once this process starts taking place, it's very fast-paced. But I did edit a lot of this out because my video was a lot longer to begin with, but I wasn't sure if that was something that you would be interested in seeing a full video on this. And it looks like everything is just about to get to the fun part of it now, of adding in our colors. In doing this process, you can also withhold some of your water from the beginning that would go into your lye solution. You want to heat that up, add some of that additional water back in after it's gone through the cook process. That will help to thin this a little bit, to make it a little easier to work with on adding your mica and your fragrance and your additives. Definitely not a pourable batch because it is so thick. Okay, now we're going to be adding in our oatmeal and our honey and the castor oil that I reserved from the batch. I blend those together because it seems to make it a little easier to mix it all in once those are together, rather than trying to add each of the ingredients separately, and to make it a little easier to stir all of those in. Now it's time to be adding our fragrance oil, and this is where the magic happens. The fragrance will infuse our soap with a captivating scent that you will want to use it over and over again. It definitely gives the arms a good workout as there's lots of stirring and blending, and this just gets thicker and thicker. Now I'm going to be separating the batch in about half because I'm planning to do a split, a half white, half blue marble effect. And I'm just eyeballing this to get it to where I think it's about half, just to give a little contrast in the colors. And for the final touch, we're adding the mica. We will be using 2 different shades today to create this marble effect in our soap. And it's like creating a work of art with every batch. I'm just trying to blend these in. This is where a helper can also come in handy because they could also help you stir and keep an eye on everything. I'm attempting, I guess you would call it an in the pot swirl, but there's not really much swirling, it's just more blending, but it does create a beautiful marble effect. And our soap mixture is now complete. It's time to transfer our soap into the soap mold. We'll quickly plop and mash this mixture into the mold, ensuring that it's evenly distributed and that all of the air bubbles are pressed out. We will also, after we get everything into this mold, want to make sure that we don't have any air bubbles or air gaps into this loaf. Then we will top it with some oatmeal just to give it a little extra touch. Just using the back of the spatula to help work it all down in there. It's workable. It's just not, it doesn't pour in like a liquid. So you're just having to push and mash to make sure that you get it all into all of the corners and the extra air bubbles out. There's the oatmeal that I'm sprinkling on top. There's oatmeal in the batter and then oatmeal on the top, and it just gives it a little extra exfoliation while using these lovely bars. And now comes the hardest part. We have to wait. Once our soap is all into the loaf, we'll allow it to sit and cool for about 12 to 24 hours. This will allow our soap to harden and cool and become ready for use. And here we have it. It's time to cut. The final step. Our beautiful crafted oatmeal and honey countertop hot press soap. We're going to pop it out of the mold and look at our masterpiece. Final step is to cut into bars, and look at how beautiful this is. And there's the cut. And there you have it, our very own Oatmeal and Honey Countertop Hot Process Soap. It's packed with skin-loving ingredients and made with love. This soap will leave you feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, and ready to take on the day. Thank you all for joining me on this soap making adventure. If you enjoyed this Make With Me soap video, please let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting soap making content. Until next time, happy soap making. Thanks y'all.